start. It's a privilege and an honor to introduce this highest caliber teacher of teachers, Srivatsa Ramaswami, to the MindBodySoul Studio. Let's give him a hand. Welcome all. Srivatsa Ramaswami, who I'm now going to refer to after this as Sir, studied with T. Krishnamacharya for 33 years, distinguishing him as the longest standing student of this legendary master and father of modern yoga, outside of his own family. Krishnamacharya, we may mention here, taught more than his share of luminaries such as Pattabhi Jois, B.K.S. Iyengar, and his son T.K.V. Desikachar, who went on to establish the KYM, that's the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram in Chennai. Sir's own contributions include 4 books: Yoga Beneath the Surface with David Hurwitz, the complete book of Vinyasa Yoga, Yoga for the 3 Stages of Life, and Basic Tenays of Patanjali Yoga. Numerous Sanskrit chant recordings, videos and lectures, which many, by the way, can be viewed on his YouTube channel, which is under Ramaswami Srivatsa. So there's a lot of content there. There's also a monthly newsletter, besides maintaining a busy schedule of trainings, lectures, and seminars here in the US and worldwide. We are very pleased to have you, sir. Much gratitude and appreciation to Alyssa and Stacy, Liz, the whole gang here at MBS, and to our audience as well. I invite you to all simply sit, listen, and absorb from this humble, esteemed man who walks the walk, who gracefully embodies the teachings of his guru without any attempt to improve upon it, to repackage it, to brand it, to reinvent it. He continues to lovingly preserve the purity and sanctity of all he was taught with humility, generosity, honesty, and devotion. This is classic traditional yoga, as close to the source as most of us are ever likely to get, and which there truly is no substitute. So thank you so much, sir, for coming to our studio after all this time pulling you here. So please feel free to start.
ஓம் ஐந்து கரத்தனை யானை முகத்தனை இந்த இளம்பிறை போன்ற ஈற்றினை நந்தி மகந்தனை ஞான கொழுந்தினை புந்தியில் வைத்தடி போற்றுகின்றேனே யோகேன சித்தஸ்ய பதேன வாசாமலம் ஷரீரஸ்ய ச வைத்யகேன யோபாகரோத்தம் பிரவரம் முனீனாம் பதஞ்சலிம் பிராஞ்சலிரானதோஸ்மி ஆபாஹு புருஷாகாரம் சங்கசக்கராசிதாரிணம் சஹஸ்ரசலசம் ஸ்வேதம் பிரணமாமி பதஞ்சலிம் श्रीमते अनंताय नागराजाय नमो नमः अस्मदाचार्येभ्यः सर्वेभ्यो नमो नमः I want to thank you all for coming for this program on Sunday afternoon. It's a difficult time to sit for a lecture. I want to thank Colleen for making all these arrangements to Body, Mind, Soul Studio here. Okay, right. Some people may get a bit offended by the title of the talk. What is yoga? Many people have been practicing yoga for decades, and then if you say that you should come to your talk on what is yoga, then they may feel, okay, no, I've been doing yoga for 15 years. I know what yoga is. What is this fellow going to talk about? Anyway, I will tell you some background about the talk I'm going to give you. I think I mentioned about it. When I started studying with my guru. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can't hear me, so you don't respond. No. Okay, are you sure? So it's okay now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I started studying with my guru way back in, I think 1955 I started. Initially it was all asanas for about 5-6 years or so. Then he said, why don't you study some Vedic chanting? When I was very young, I learned some Vedic chanting in my house with my father. So it was good to start over again, and then that went on for some time, say about another 4-5 years or so. And I studied with Desikachar, his Krishnamacharya's son. We studied the chanting together for a number of years. And then one day at the end of a class, Desikachar asked me, told me that he was going to start studying the text. First he would start with the Yoga Sutras, and I've heard about it. Right? I have not studied Yoga Sutra, I just heard about it. So he said, would you like to join? I hesitated, because, because I was not sure whether, it's a difficult text. I have heard that it's a difficult text, so I was not sure whether I was ready for that. Then when he saw me hesitating, he said, that's what my father asked me. He asked me to find out if you are interested. If you are interested, you can join me. I didn't say anything, and then I started attending his class, the next class. So Krishnamacharya, when he started the Yoga Sutras, first he talked about what is yoga. That's why that's after 5 or 6 years of studying with him. When he started teaching the Yoga Sutras, he wanted to talk about what is yoga, and whatever he said at that time, I'm trying to recapture and then explain to you now. The word yoga, all of you know, the word yoga means yoga is union. Union means two things to unite. Yoga is union, right? So that everybody knows. If you read any of the yoga books, they say yoga is, the root is yujur yoga. It comes from the Sanskrit root yujur to mean union. So yoga is union. In fact, many of the yoga texts, including the Yoga Sutras, every author will start by saying that yoga is union, and then they try to explain the particular text. Now, when you say yoga is union, then we have got to understand union of what and what. Union of what? There should be two tattvas. Two tattvas are two principles between which the union should take place. Do you follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Right? So if you say a particular yoga, then you must explain what are the two tattvas between which union has to take place. It is not sufficient to merely say that the two principles should unite. You must also tell what are the various activities that are to be done to bring about the union between these two. If X sits somewhere, Y sits somewhere else, and then if you talk about union, you must also say how that union can take place. Thirdly, you must see that union can take place only between two principles in which there is affinity. There should be some affinity. There should be something common between them. Otherwise, however much you may try to unite water and oil, it will never unite, isn't it? Water and oil, they don't mix. So there should be some compatibility between these two principles. And as I told you, what are the two principles between which you are trying to bring about a union? Secondly, what is common between them? And thirdly, what are the activities that will have to be done so that the union can take place? So based on that, we have got to understand the various yoga systems that are available. The most popular yoga system that is available is known as the Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga, most of us practice Hatha Yoga. So Hatha Yoga is number one. Another yoga that is very popular is Kundalini Yoga. Of course, different versions of them are there, but the basic principles are still the same. Whatever way you practice Kundalini Yoga, there are two tattvas between which union has to take place. Then you go to Bhakti Yoga. Then finally we get to the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras and also Ashtanga Yoga. So these are the well-known yogic systems. We will try to go through how the union is brought about. If we take Hatha Yoga, what is Hatha Yoga? Hatha Yoga is Ha and Tha. There are two tattvas, a principle called Ha, another principle called Tha, union between these two, right? That is called Hatha Yoga. Hascha, Tascha, Hataha, Tayoho Yoga, Hatha Yoga. Here you are trying to bring about a union between these two. What does Ha and what does Tha represent? According to many of the commentators of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Ha represents prana, Tha represents apana. Hatha Yoga is union between prana and apana, right? But both of them are pranas. Both of them are life forces. But they do two different types of functions. Usually the meaning with prana and apana. Prana is the force that is responsible to take a lot of things from the outside world, especially air from the outside world. Apana is the one that that removes a lot of things that I don't want in my body. Because I am a dynamic entity, I need a lot of things to be taken from the outside world. I had to take water, I had to take air, I got to take food, everything, and then I had to constantly get rid of what I don't want. So these two activities are supposed to be generally done by the two tattvas. One is called the prana and the other one apana. So what the yogis are trying to do is they are trying to bring about a samya avastha, or a parity, or a union between these two tattvas, prana and apana. And according to the Hatha yogis, let's not go into the details. According to Hatha yogis, prana is supposed to be in the heart region, that is the location of prana. Apana is said to be in the lower portion below the navel. These are the two positions of prana and apana, and they try to bring about a union between these two by doing Hatha yoga. So in Hatha yoga there are three parts mainly. One is the asanas, where you work with the skeletal system. Then you got the pranayama, where you work with basically with the prana, which is in the thoracic region, and then we got the apana in the in the region below the navel. And there are number of mudras mentioned in the Hatha yoga, like your Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Navli Kriya. All of them are basically with the the pelvic area. So one the skeletal system, then we got the upper portion of the body, which will be the thoracic region, and then there are specific exercises they have developed, different types of pranayama, you work with the prana, different types of abdominal exercises, most of them are called mudras, like as I told you, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Navli Kriya, Kapalabhati, Bhastrika, then we have got Agnisara, then Vatasara, then Varisara, like that they have come out with a number of abdominal exercises. So by these abdominal exercises you are able to strengthen apana. By pranayama you are able to strengthen the the prana, and then they bring about a union between these two according to the Bhagavad Gita. The union between prana and apana is Hatha yoga. So in this union there are different details are there. Either you can move prana towards apana, pranam apane jukvati, that's what the Bhagavad Gita says, or pranam apane jukvati, depending upon whether you are able to bring about pull the prana towards the apana and bring about a union, or push the prana towards the apana and bring about, or push apana upward, bring prana downward, and then bring about a union. So these are details, let us not get into it. So Hatha yoga is actually union of prana and apana. And how is it you are able to do that? First of all, you practice asana. Of course, yama niyamas will have to be properly observed, otherwise these things won't work. So then you work to work with your pranayama, then work with your various mudras, and then the yogis are able to bring about the union between these two. So the union of prana and apana is said to be Hatha yoga. So this is what they try to do. Hatha yogis are supposed to do. Of course, we don't do that. This is the goal of Hatha yoga. Hatha yoga is the union of prana and apana, two biological forces in our body, bring about a union between these two, and the entire system, the goal is to bring about the union. I got to understand the location of prana, I got to understand the location of apana, work out, and then ultimately I am able to reach this goal called prana apana yoga aikyam. Aikyam means oneness, unity between these two. So that is called yoga. That is one definition. Yoga means union of prana and apana. We are able to bring about the union of prana and apana. It is called Hatha yoga. How do you do it? The whole Hatha yoga text, the whole Hatha yoga system is there to bring about the union between these two. Okay, let us keep aside the Hatha yoga for the time being. Let us go to the next yoga that is very, very popular. At least in India, it is very popular. As you know, it is known as the Kundalini yoga. Have you heard of Kundalini yoga? Some of you may be practicing it. I'm not trying to get into the details of how Kundalini yoga should be practiced, but basically in Kundalini yoga, what are the two principles that are to be, again, the union has to take place, there has to be two separate principles. What are the two separate principles in Kundalini yoga? One is called Shakti, some people call it as Kundalini. Shakti is the energy, or the Kundalini. And then the other one is the Shiva Tattva. Have you heard of the Shiva Tattva? Shiva is somewhere in the top, somewhere in the the Sahasrara position, which is, and then Kundalini is the bottom of the what you call at the bottom, right, at the Muladhara chakra, and then they are separated. Shiva is here, Kundalini is here, and then because the what you call the Sushumna Nadi is blocked by Kundalini, there is no movement. She is sleeping. Kundalini is sleeping, and then according to this particular yoga, Shiva is as I told you, what is Kundalini yoga? Basically, the union between Shakti and Shiva. Shiva Shakti Aikya they call it. Shiva and Shakti should be united. Where will they be united? So far as the Hatha yoga is concerned, prana can be pushed down, apana can be pushed out, union can be brought about. But in Kundalini Yoga, unfortunately, Shiva doesn't get down. He sits there always. He doesn't move. He doesn't move. So the movement will have to come only from Kundalini. So the system is arouse the Kundalini and then force the Kundalini or guide the Kundalini through Sushumna. For the Sushumna, for the Kundalini to go through Sushumna, it's a very fine capillary kind of tube, nadi. So it's very difficult for that. So you got to keep the what you call backbone straight. So the Hatha Yogis try to keep the backbone straight so that the ultimately arouse the Kundalini, push the or guide the Kundalini through the through the Sushumna ultimately, and ultimately it reaches the Sahasrara where the union takes place. Union between Kundalini or Shakti and Shiva takes place in the Sahasrara, and this particular system works towards that. Some people use physical exercises. For instance, if you first arouse the, if you read a text called Yoga Yajnavalkya, they explain to you in great detail how this movement of Kundalini you are able to bring about. Anyway, so some people say that it can be done mechanically, that is through exercises. Some people say it can be done by meditation. Some people say you can use mantras and arouse the Kundalini. There are different schools. But basically the approach is, I want to bring about the union between Shakti and Shiva, right? What do I get if I do that? According to Shankara, in one of his works called the Saundarya Lahari, Ananda, in one shloka, 13th shloka, so he says, when you are able to bring about the union between Kundalini, Shiva, Kundalini, Shakti and Shiva in the Sahasrara here, the sadhaka means the person who practices Kundalini is able to experience enormous bliss in all the 72,000 nadis in his body, right? An experience of bliss all over the body. So that is the goal. So far the sadhaka is concerned, he is able to Brahmananda, ultimate bliss they are able to experience. So now we know. So far as Kundalini is concerned, there are two tattvas, Kundalini or Shakti at the bottom of the spine at the Mooladhara chakra, Shiva in the Sahasrara chakra. There are 6 chakras in between. So there is no movement between Kundalini. It sleeps. Shiva doesn't move. So arouse the Kundalini and then do this. And that is the main goal of Kundalini Yoga. You may follow different systems, different schools come out with that. Ultimately the goal is Shiva Shakti Aikya is what we try to achieve by Kundalini Yoga. Okay? Let's go to the next one. The next very popular yoga is known as the Bhakti Yoga. What is Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti means devotion. Bhakti means devotion. Are you okay?
Yes. We're good.
Right. The third yoga that is very popular, many people say that people in India practice yoga, right? Of course, they may not practice nowadays. Of course, more people practice yoga the way yoga is practiced in the West. But in the olden days, many people were practicing yoga, but they were all bhakti yogis by and large. Everyone will sit down and then for about 15 minutes or half an hour, they do some kind of worship. So ultimately, they would like to get a union with the Lord. Sayujya, I want to merge with the Lord. So that is their goal. So this is Bhakti Yoga. How do you do it? Again, there are a number of methods by which Bhakti Yoga is practiced, right? There are form worship is there, or you worship the Lord with the various prayers, whatever be. There are do puja, number of methods by which the sadhaka is able to achieve union with the ultimate reality, which is this is the Lord. Now here there are two different schools, right? There again, so the Lord is somewhere. I don't know where God is. You know where God is? I don't know. But we all believe, at least most of the people who do Bhakti Yoga believe God exists, and then they would like to merge with that ultimate reality, so that there is nothing else to think. That's the only goal in life. I want to merge with the Lord. That's all what I want to do. So what do I do? There are two groups. One group says that if you want to, that is, you go through life, and then at the time I die, whatever be the thought in my mind, I become that. So if I want to merge with the Lord, so I keep on thinking about the Lord all through my life. So at the time of my death, only one thought comes to my mind, that is the thought of the Lord. Does it make sense? So at the time, as soon as I die, I don't go anywhere. I don't take another janma, another birth. I go straight and then merge with the Lord. So I would like to keep on doing this. So this is what you call well-established system in Bhakti Yoga. So what do? Is they keep on all the time, all the time they think of the Lord only, and then meditate upon the Lord, and then ultimately at the time of death there is no other thought, and ultimately death. So that is their goal. That is their goal. Bhakti Yoga. The Jivatma, the individual soul, merges with Paramatma, the ultimate reality. So there is no further future but now. That's my goal. That's all what I want. I don't want to be born again. Of course, it doesn't depend upon whether I believe in future birth or not. If it is there, it is there. Right? I don't want to be born again. So if I don't want to be born again, I would like to merge with the Lord. So in Bhakti Yoga, the approach is the individual soul, Jivatma, and the ultimate soul, Paramatma, they merge together. And then all the activities is done by whom? By the Jivatma, right? So they give the example of a monkey. Have you heard of a monkey? If you have not, have you seen a monkey? You are not, you come to India, there are plenty of So what does the mother monkey do? What does the mother monkey do? Mother monkey, when I say mother monkey, there should be a baby monkey, right? The baby monkey will, I don't know whether, see, the baby monkey clings to the underbelly of the mother. Have you seen that? Right, it clings to that. So the mother monkey, because it is a monkey, it doesn't stay in a particular place. It jumps from branch to branch, tree to tree, keeps on going all over the place. So it doesn't really bother much about the baby. It doesn't object to the baby clinging to the mother, but it doesn't take special care about the baby. So it is the duty of the baby instinctively to cling to the mother's belly so that it doesn't fall when the mother, does all her gyrations, just jump from branch to branch. Like this, here also, you have to be constantly, in this Bhakti Yoga, you have to be constantly thinking of the Lord. So at the time of your death, you ultimately merge with the Lord. So they call this, this is known as Markata. Markata means a monkey, Markata Nyaya. So in this Bhakti Yoga, what should I do? I should be constantly thinking of the Lord. How do I do that? There are pujas involved, there are different religious procedures available. They are detailed, but basically I should be thinking of the Lord all through my life, so that at the time I die, there is no other thought except the Lord in my mind, so that I merge with the Lord. So the union between the individual soul, Jivatma, and the Paramatma, that takes place. Some people are very completely spend their lifetime. That's all what they do. That's all what they do. They are not distracted by anything else by which we are all distracted. They think about the Lord, do their puja, and then whatever duties they got to do, they do. But then the main focus is, I want to, merge with the Lord. Right? They want to be thinking about the Lord all the time. Is it clear?
Yes.
So this is one kind of Bhakti Yoga. In fact, there is a very interesting. There is one bhakta, one devotee says, praise to the Lord. I do not know what will be my state at the time I die. Appodiki podishuli viten. I don't know how my state will be at the time I die. So take it as my final request. So I want to be with you, right? I whatever be my last stage, you consider that my prayer right now is to be merging with you at the time when I die. So that's called Bhakti Yoga. There is also another approach here. It is called Sharanagati, where what they say is you surrender to the Lord and the Lord will take care of you. You don't have to be thinking about the Lord all the time. You surrender to the Lord, go about doing your duties, don't get completely involved in the in the day-to-day, involved in the the pleasures and unhappiness or happiness that the world provides. You surrender, the Lord will take care of you. They give the example of a cat and the kitten. Cat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
A mother cat, when mother cat gives birth to kitten, the kitten don't bother about. They don't cling to the mother. They just are free. The mother takes care of it. Mother picks up each and every one of the kitten and then deposits in a safe place, guards them until they are able to be on their own. The mother takes care of it. Mother cat takes care of it. So like that they say, like the kitten, you surrender yourself to the Lord and the Lord will take care of you. You don't have to bother about that. So this is another method, but both of them say that the whole goal of Bhakti Yoga is to merge with the Lord. I don't want anything else. Right? If that is the approach, then we have got the next yoga called Bhakti Yoga. Right? So in all these three yogas, these are the three well-known yogas. Hatha Yoga, where union of prana and apana takes place. In Kundalini Yoga, where Shakti and Shiva are united. And finally, we have the Bhakti Yoga, where the Jivatma and Paramatma are united. fact, the Yoga Yajnavalkya, he defines yoga as samyogo yoga uchyate jivatma paramatmano. Samyoga means total integration. Samyoga means in union. Sam means absolute. Sam means complete. Samyoga, complete union. Samyogo yoga uchyate jivatma paramatmano, which are the two principles which get united, individual soul and the ultimate soul. These are the three yogas. Yogas where the meaning of the word yoga is what? Meaning of the word yoga is union. Right, use union. And then, among the people who do Bhakti Yoga, in fact, if we go to India, by and large, most people are Bhakti Yogis. By and large, at least when I was young, usually people have faith in God, and so some kind of a union with the Lord is attempted on a daily basis. Evening when they come home, they have one deity and then they worship that particular deity for about half an hour or so, or in the morning. So some kind of a connection with the, they may not go to a temple, they may not go anywhere else. Each one has got his own or her own practice by which they try to communicate with the Ishtadevata or the Lord. Alright, now let us get to the next yoga called Raja Yoga. Right? The next yoga is called Raja Yoga. What is the Raja Yoga? What is the Raja Yoga? Raja Yoga is a yoga that is explained by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras, right? So if you don't want to get involved into what is the Raja Yoga is a yoga explained by Patanjali in his text called the Yoga Sutras, right? In that particular Yoga Sutras, what is by Raja? Raja means Rajadito. Rajadito means that yoga which throws light on something. That is illuminating. What does it illuminate? It illuminates the nature of your own self. It tells you who really you are. So that is the meaning of the word Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga means the yoga by which you are able to understand who really you are, right? Now in the Raja Yoga, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the word yoga, if you say yoga is union, you got to find out which are the two principles between which yoga union is taking place. Many of the contemporary writers, right, many of the Yoga Sutra writers, they say yoga is union, right, and then try to explain. But then when you look at the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the very first, forget the first sutra is the title of the book. The second sutra defines what yoga is. Yoga is defined as yoga chittavritti nirodha. All of you are familiar with the term, right? Say yoga chittavritti nirodha. What does it mean? Where does it say that the union between any two principles? No, there are no two principles involved. In Yoga Sutra, they say yoga chitta vritti. The only what you call entity they are talking about in the definition of Yoga Sutra is about the chitta, about the brain or mind, whatever you want to call the term that you want to call. Chitta vritti nirodha. Vritti means activity. Nirodha happens to bring it to a complete stop. See, our minds are constantly working. All that from my childhood up to this particular moment, my mind has been keeping on working, right? Some kind of a vritti or other it is giving. In a state of yoga, according to them, the chitta comes to a complete stop. It doesn't it doesn't act the way it is acting now, right? That is the definition of yoga. So where are the two principles involved? No, they are talking about only one principle, only about the chitta. Chitta is activities coming down. If the activities of the chitta are brought down to what you call from million vrittis on a daily basis, you reduce it, and then ultimately it is reduced to one vritti, and even that last one vritti is not completely removed, then that is called yoga according to Patanjali. Does it make sense? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. I got thousands of vrittis. From the morning I get up in the morning, by the time I go to bed, my mind goes through multiple vrittis. The moment I get up, my wife says that what about breakfast, and my children say no, I want this, I want that, and then your mind is completely already taken by the outside world. Then you go out, work, and then work all through the day. You work with the boss, and go through all this traffic, come home, watch your TV, get yourself disturbed, and then go to sleep. So this constantly, then next morning you get up, even during when you are sleeping, it is in one kind of vritti, tamo vritti, or you have those unwanted dreams. So the mind is in a state of some kind of a vritti all through our life. So yoga is to bring about the reduction and ultimately the elimination of all the vrittis. So that is yoga. So there the meaning of the word, the meaning for yoga there is not union but something else. So in Sanskrit, some of the words, all the words are derived from roots. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
Every word has to come from a root, right? Right. So the word yoga, when you know yoga is union between X and Y, then the word yoga comes from a root called yujur yoga. Yujur is the root. Yujur to unite. That's it comes from yuj, right? Sometimes yunj. That is the root, right? But when Patanjali uses the word yoga in Yoga Sutras, he doesn't use the word yoga as union, but yoga chittavritti nirodha, right? What is my yoga? What is my yoga? Yogas, yoga, samadhana. Samadhana means absolute peace of mind. So the word yoga in Yoga Sutras is not union, but absolute peace of mind. So this is the difference. So you cannot explain yoga as union in Yoga Sutras. Even though both the Yoga Sutras and also Hatha Yoga use the same, because the word yoga, use the word yoga, they both of them come from different roots. But the three unions, what you call yogas, I told you about the Bhakti Yoga, Hatha Yoga, and what you call Kundalini Yoga. The yoga there, the word yoga is derived from union, whereas in the Yoga Sutras it is another word called, another root called yuja samadho or samadhana. Samadhana means absolute peace of mind. When will my mind come to an absolute peace? That's the next question. That is what the Yoga Sutras take about. There is no point in merely saying that the mind should be brought to an absolute peace or you should reach a. When can a mind reach a particular peace, state of peace? When it is removed, when it is able to completely give up all fear. It has to give up all fear, right? It has to give up. Only then it will be able to constantly we are under some kind of what should I do today? I got to file my returns today, I got to do this, I got to do this. Constantly there is an anxiety. You may not accept that. There is a certain amount of anxiety. I am worried about my health, I am worried about my finances. Constantly there is a worry, right? Now in the Yoga Sutra, what it says is, if you really understand who really you are, this anxiety is unnecessary. Right? So with that view, the entire Yoga Sutras are written. The yoga by Patanjali Yoga Sutra is, the fear is unnecessary because we have not spent time thinking about who really we are. Is it clear? If you understand who really you are, then what happens? The kind of fear that I am having now will not be there. Once there is no fear, what will happen to the mind? Because the fear is not there, the mind will not be, there won't be any chittavritti, the chittavritti nirodha will take place. And then when the chittavritti nirodha takes place, I will be able to directly experience who really I am. Now let us try to understand that. A lot of problem is there because you say that you are able to understand your true nature. That is where the problem is. What is the true nature of your own self? What is the nature of the Purusha? What is the nature of the Drashta? All those things they are talking about. Let us try to understand, not exactly understand, let's try to explore this a little bit. We have some time, right? We'll go through that a little bit. Now, where is the noise coming from?
Outside. Do you want me to close the other window?
It's fine.
It's okay.
Now let us understand this. What Patanjali says is, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, I can now understand that mind will have to, instead of the millions of vrittis going through, it will slowly brings down. So the system should be not to bring about union between A and B, but is to bring about the Chitta Vrittis. Reduce the number of Chitta Vrittis. That is what the Yoga Sutra. How do I do it? I can do it by following the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. With the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he uses a particular what you call system called Ashtanga Yoga. With the Ashtanga Yoga, it is possible for you to keep on reducing your Chitta Vritti so that the less and less Chitta Vrittis, mind is able to concentrate more and more. When I have too many Chitta Vrittis, one after the other, too many different types of thoughts coming in succession as a train of thought, then my mind will not be able to settle down. In this case, what happens? By a deliberate practice called Ashtanga Yoga, I will be able to reduce the various Chitta Vrittis and ultimately I will be able to remain with one Chitta Vritti and I will be able to even transcend that particular chitta vritti when I am able to understand the true nature of it. This is the system. This is the system of the Yoga Sutras, right? Now, they ultimately say when you are able to bring about the chitta vritti nirodha, right? Chitta vritti nirodha, you will be able to understand the true nature of yourself. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Tada, when the chitta vritti nirodha takes, tada, drashtu is the seer. You come to let us say what the drashtu is the real self according to them. Drashtu, swarupe avasthanam. You are able to, the chitta, my mind is able to see who really I am, truly. I am able to, my chitta is not able to see because of the various vrittis. When the vrittis are completely reduced, the chitta will be able to, it's not distracted at all, it is able to understand who really I am. Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam drashtam. It is able to see that. That is the goal. The goal of yoga is to understand who really you are. Then in that case, what should you know? I know who really I am. If you say that I know who really I am, they say you don't know. That's what the Yoga Sutras say. What you consider to be yourself is not the real self. How do they say that? They use different arguments because these arguments were written, in the olden days. They were quite logical at that particular time. But we must try to understand them in the way we understand things now. Right? One of the chitta vrittis, according to Patanjali, is how you see the outside world. How do you see the outside world? I see the outside world, or I experience the outside world through my senses. Am I right? There is nothing I can see from the outside world other than my senses. Does it make sense? I got to see the outside world. So all my experience experience of the outside world is limited by my senses. My eyes see, I am able to hear a lot of things, I smell, I taste, and also what is the other thing? What are the other things? So these are the five senses through which I am able to experience the outside world. So, alright, when I want to see you, right? When I want to see you, is it okay with you? Are you with me?
Yes.
The whole idea is to understand what do they mean by drashta. What do they mean by drashta? Drashta, tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. I want to understand what do they mean by that. So when I am able to see all of you in front of me, all the objects in front of me, right? How do I see you? We don't ask that question. Yeah, with my eyes. I keep my eyes open, I can see all of you. That's the answer that you immediately get. But if you take a little bit more, if you go to the Bhagavad Gita, he says, all other are sensations. What do you mean by that? When I see you, when I focus my attention on you, right? I don't see you per se, I see only your form. Am I right? I see only your form. How do I see your form? For me to see your form, there is one thing more that is required. What is it? Light must be there. If there is no light, I can't see any one of you. Even though you are there, I can feel you, I can come and touch you, I can feel you, but I can't see you. If you want to see you, what happens? There should be light. So let us say there is light here, sunlight or whatever. Sunlight falls on you. Then what do? You don't do anything. You reflect the light. You reflect that light. You absorb some portion of the light, and then you reflect the light in so many different angles, which change the wavelength of the light, and then those light particles come and reach my eyes. It goes and hits the retina. Once it reaches the retina, what does the retina do? Retina collects the impulses, converts them into electrical impulses, and sends it to the optical nerves and goes to the brain. And some part of the brain, there is a center where all the optical sensations are received, and then it processes it. Now what do I have in my mind now, in my brain now? I got only signals. I have not seen you yet. I have got only, you sent some signals to my brain. My brain has collected those signals. It has modified it. Let us not go through how it is modified. It goes, and then some part of the brain it is there. Simultaneously, I may also hear certain things. Right? When I want to hear what should happen, you must say something, and then there should be air, and then sound waves come and hit my eardrums, and the eardrums convert them to electrical impulses. It goes to a different portion in the brain called the center. This is how science explains this. All of them go to the brain. Once it goes to the brain, what happens? Right? The brain has got only signals now. It is still not seeing you properly. I got to explain how I see you in front of me. Am I right? I got to explain to you how I see you in front of me. So it goes to the brain. And the brain, what does it do? It processes them, adds emotions toward it. I like you, I don't like you, right? Whatever. It adds to them. And ultimately, it is not sufficient. And then it analyzes, oh yes, I have seen this particular person. This is David, this is John, this is so-and-so. All this information, again, it collects from that. Ultimately, it comes out with with a particular thought. We call it as a vritti. What does it do? Then it has to mere what you call receipt of the signals is not sufficient. It will have to be reconverted into the form in which you are. Am I right? No?
Yes.
See, it has only received signals. Those signals will, so let us assume that the brain has got the capacity to it. After it receives all those things, it makes its own picture, and projects it. Where does it project it? It can't project it outside because I don't see anything coming out of my head. So the projection will have to be in my own head. Am I right?
Yes.
Alright. So that they call it as Chitta Akasha. Chitta Akasha means mental space because it can't come back to the physical space, it is projected in my mental space. In addition to that, what does it do is, if it is projected in the mind, in the brain, it is projected in the brain, then how do I see it? I can't get it to my brain and see that. Do you see what I mean? Everything is now, even though I appear to see all of you, if you try to explain the process by which I am able to see you, I come to a stage where I say that all the information I have gone to the brain is able to what you call process them, and then see, the way I see is going to be different from the way you see. If I look at you, she is looking at a different angle, I look at it from a different angle. The picture I get is going to be different from the picture she is going to have. So my mind will have to convert them into a convert them. That we call it as Chittavritti. It converts them into a particular. It contains not only the picture as it is, it also contains the emotions associated with that, other information, everything. So I get a unique picture. This is my Chittavritti. Now don't go away. Please stay with me for some more time. Now the next question is, having gone to my brain, I have to explain it is projected into the mental space. Can I see it in my mental space? No, I am seeing it in front of me, not in my brain. Am I right? So I got to explain that. So another thing that is also happening is, I'm aware of everybody sitting in front of me. I'm also aware of this person. Am I right? I'm aware of this person. How is it I'm aware of this person? Because this person, this individual, whom I call this as the subject which is seeing everybody else, this individual has got a nervous system, and then this nervous system sends the signals to the brain, and with that I am able to be aware of this particular person. So the whole body, my own body sends signals about this person so that I am aware of this person. My senses collect information from the outside world and then send it. So in my brain I got two parts. One part containing the information about the outside world, one part containing the information about this person through my nervous system, and then once it goes to the nervous system, it is able to project, and ultimately I am able to see a picture in which all of you are sitting in front of me. I am also sitting here and talking. So what is it I am now experiencing? I am experiencing that all of you are sitting in front of me. I am sitting here and talking to me. This is the total picture. The picture is not merely all of you sitting in front of me. The picture consists of not only all of you sitting in front of me, but also it contains me sitting here along with you. My picture, my Chittavritti is not confined to the outside world. My Chittavritti contains not only the outside world, but also me, whom I call as subject, as a part of the whole picture. And that is my Chittavritti. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So if that is the Chittavritti, who is the one that is seeing that? If I have included this person also as part of the Chittavritti, who is the one that is seeing that? That is the Purusha, that is the Drashta, that is the real self. You want to go home? Right. So my Chittavritti always consists of two parts. When I say Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha, I don't merely say about my my thoughts will have to come to a stop, or my mind Chittavritti Nirodha is a condition in which not only the thoughts about the outside world comes to a stop, but also the awareness of my own, this person also comes to a stop. That is why when the yogi is in a state of samadhi, he is completely oblivious to not only the outside world, but also his own body. That is the state of samadhi. And then at that time, which is the one that is experiencing all these things, it is the same Purusha. Now, let us start going to the Purusha now. Purusha is something which is, what is its essential nature? What is its essential nature? The essential nature of Purusha is awareness, because it should be only be aware of the chitta vrittis. Isn't it? Right at this particular moment, I am sitting here and talking, all of you are sitting in front of me. What is it I am aware of? Normally I will say that I am aware of only of the outside people. Now, with this analysis, I will be able to say, okay, I am aware of not only all the people sitting in front of me, but I am also aware of me sitting here and talking as part of my experience. My experience consists not only in the outside world, but also me as part of the outside world. And which is the one that is experiencing that? That is called the Purusha. What should be its essential nature? Its essential nature should be what? Awareness. It should be aware of the chitta vritti. So Patanjali is able to reduce all their experiences to two: the subject and the object. Normally I consider this fellow as the subject and everything. I am the subject all through my life. All through my life I am the subject, and everything that I experience are the objects. Likewise, all through your life you are the subject. Now what they say is, this is okay, but it's not completely correct. That is, what is it I am aware of consists of not only the outside world, but whomsoever I consider to be my own self. Both of them form part of my experience. My experience consists of the subject and the object, right? And then the next thing, that what should be essential nature? It should be awareness, isn't it? It should be aware of everything that goes on in the chitta, right? Now, if you really take a couple of moments to think about it, all through my life, I am aware of various chitta vrittis. When I was young, right, there were different kinds of chitta vrittis. I was able to observe that. Then I became an adult, and then there are different kinds of chitta vrittis. I was able to observe that. There was the experience of those chitta vrittis. Then old age, like that, the chitta vrittis keep on changing, whereas the awareness does not undergo any change. So that awareness, which does not undergo any change, they call it as the real self. That they call it as Purusha. That they call it as Drashta. That they call it. If you are able to spend a little time, think about it, and then rather than identifying with this person as the self, if you are able to identify with the Purusha who is non-changing, as I told you, when I was young, I was able to see all the experiences, mid part of the different set of experience, but still that particular awareness did not undergo any change. Okay. Does it make sense? No.
Yes.
If I am able to identify that, if I means what? My buddhi, my intellect which is very powerful, it is able to think and understand everything. If it is able to understand this kind of logic by the yogis, then what will happen? Instead of identifying with this physical person as the real self, I will be able to identify with that awareness as the real self. It is not something somewhere. You are able to, you just spend a little more, a couple of moments, you will be able to see, yes, I am able, what is it I am doing right now? I am teaching a class. I am saying something, right? That's what I am doing. What is it I am experiencing? I am experiencing that I am teaching a class. So the one that experiences that I am teaching the class is the real self. The one who is teaching a class is part of the whole universe. If it appeals to me, if this kind of the line of thinking of it, then I will say, okay, if that is the case, then what happens? The one that is non-changing, constantly does not undergo any change, is the real self. That's what this line of thinking amounts to. Then what will happen? I will try to isolate this the real Purusha, the real self, from the one which I consider to be my real self. That dichotomy between the observer and the observer. So according to Patanjali, the outside world is not the object, the individual self is not the object. The object is the chitta vritti. That chitta vritti consists of all the outside objects, but all in a form of chitta vritti. We don't see any object per se. Everything is reduced to chitta vritti. Everything is reduced to chitta vritti, and then that chitta vritti is being observed by a non-changing Purusha. And then if I am able to identify with the Purusha as the real self, that's I'm in business. So once I am able to do that, then they tell you, all right, it is if you are able to understand that, let us say at the intellectual level, it is the first stage of understanding. How is it different? It is different from the normal way I have been going about my life. All the time I've been thinking this Ramaswami is the self, the outside world is the object. I go on doing, oh, I like this, I don't like this, I want this, I don't want this. All of us do that. All of us do that all through our life. How do we do that? All of us want to make, each one wants to make oneself happy. I want to make myself happy. You want to make yourself happy. So towards that, then we go about our life, try to do this. Okay, this made me happy, so I want this. This did not allow me to be happy, so I don't want this. So I develop what you call liking and I like and dislike towards all the objects, right? And that's how I go. But I try to grab whatever gives me happiness. I want to get rid of all those things that don't give me any happiness. And that is why once I identify with this body as the self, then what happens? I divide all the objects in the outside world as I like this, I don't like this. So that is where raga and dvesha come. All those objects that I like will be brought under raga. All those objects I don't like will become dvesha. All my activities will be directed towards getting what I want, what gives me happiness. I want to get rid of what are things that don't give me happiness. Ultimately, I get so attached to this particular person, I don't want to leave this person. So these are the 5 kleshas that he is talking about. Avidya is the first one. What is the avidya? I really do not know who really I am. Patanjali has talked about it. The real self is the Purusha, the non-changing consciousness is the Purusha, right? But I don't know that. I've been considering this person to be the self. So that is the avidya. Asmita is, I am Ramaswami. The real self is this person, is the Asmita. You see what you mean? Asmita means I exist in this body. Once I can identify with this body, I means what? My buddhi, my intellect. I may be very intelligent, my IQ may be very, very, very great, but I have not thought on these lines. I have accepted things the way they are. So if so long I identify with this body as the self, then what happens? The other 2 kleshas come in. These are the objects I like, these I don't like. And ultimately, when I get older, I get so attached to this particular person. In fact, older people get more attached to their body than younger people. Then they get the fear, abhinivesha. As I get older, I am afraid of death. And there is the abhinivesha. These are the kleshas that come. What is the root cause of all these kleshas? Because I have not spent thinking about who really I am. Once you are able to spend a little bit time thinking about who really you are, just go about doing all your activities. Don't do anything, don't change anything. But spend a little time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes every day. Who is the real self? Who is the real self? Who is the real self? Who am I? If you are states, and then you must have the means of answering those questions. One way of answering all those questions is what Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra says. All that we experience is reduced to chitta vritti. All we experience is reduced to chitta vritti. Chitta vritti consists of not only the what you call impressions from the outside world, but also impressions from my own body. Your entire system, nervous system, consisting of 72,000 nadis according to the yogis, all of them go to the brain. You see, the senses give you a lot of information to the brain. The what you call information from your own body goes to the brain. You get a composite picture. That is called as chitta vritti. And who is the one that is experiencing that? That is the real awareness. And the next thing, by little reflection, you will find that awareness does not undergo any change. If I am able to identify with this particular what you call non-changing Purusha as the real self, then what happens? What is the benefit out of that? Once I know that the awareness of the real self, when I was young, did not undergo any change. Then when I became a little older, it did not undergo any change. I am an old man, it has not undergone any change. And according to Bhagavad Gita, after you die, if you take a next birth, even then it does not undergo any change. Once I am able to identify with my real self, and that it does not undergo any change, what is the conclusion out of that? That I am immortal. If I don't undergo any change whatsoever, something which does not undergo any change will not undergo something which did not undergo any change in the past. There is no reason why it will undergo any change in the future. Once I know that the real self does not undergo any change, I will be able to understand that I am immortal. Once I am able to understand that I am immortal, the fear of death goes away. This is a simple logic. Vaguely we can understand this. Anybody who goes through the Yoga Sutra even once, right? I mean, go through it not, you got to really spend some time to understand what that bloke has to say, what that Patanjali has to say. See, in the Yoga Sutras, probably the greatest contribution given by Yoga Sutra is to reduce all our experience to a chitta vritti. There are only 2 things that are involved, the self and the object. The object or not multitude of objects, he reduces everything to chittavritti. Unless it is reduced to chittavritti, that experience will not take place. So this is the fourth yoga called the Raja Yoga. Why is it called Raja Yoga? Raja means to throw light on, to illuminate. What does it illuminate? Illuminates what is the real nature of your own self. Isn't it? Raja Yoga is, right, it illuminates which is the real nature of the, right now I don't know, I consider this fellow to be the self, I keep on doing everything, I have never thought on anything, by default I consider this person to be the self, I keep on working on this. At a particular point of time, when you go through the Yoga Sutra, it says no, the real self, whatever you consider to be the real self is only part of your chittavritti. It is part of the chitta. The real self is the one that is experiencing all those chittavrittis. Am I not aware that I am sitting here and talking? Am I not aware of that?
Yes.
That awareness is not changed. When I came here, there was a different chittavritti. When I start sitting here, and then different set of thoughts come to my mind. I keep on talking. When this talk is over, there will be different set of thoughts that will be coming. But all the time, the same Purusha, which does not undergo any change, keeps on watching different chittavrittis. This is the state according to the Yoga Sutras. Once this line of thinking appeals to me, then what happens? Okay, how can I be with the non-changing self all my time? Once I am able to understand the real Purusha does not undergo any change, once I understand that the Purusha is immortal, once I am able to understand that, then I will say, okay, if that is the case, then let me identify with that. Let me mean by buddhi, by intellect. Let me identify with that all the time. For that to take place, Patanjali says, all right, I will tell you how to do it. You start by reducing your chittavrittis. You reduce your chittavrittis. How do you do that? First of all, you start by doing your yama niyamas. Once you start practicing your yama niyamas, the outside world will produce less and less amount of chittavrittis. Right now, our outside world takes all the time. From the morning to the night, outside world, all the senses are stimulated. You get different experiences. If you practice yama niyamas, what happens? A lot of the chittavrittis will come down. From instead of 1,000,000 chittavrittis, it may come down to 1,000 chittavrittis every day. Then in addition, then you practice your asanas. When you practice your asanas, what happens? The chittavritti produced by your own body, like knee problem, neck problem, shoulder problem, all those things start coming down because there is a better prana sanchara towards various parts of the body, better rakta sanchara, blood circulation towards different parts of the body, all of them taking place, so that my body does not becomes less and less source of distraction. Does it make sense? Yama niyama reduces the distraction from the outside world. My asana practice reduces the distraction from my own body, right? Then what I do pranayama. When I do pranayama, according to the yogis, pranayama helps to reduce the kama guna. Let us come to the three gunas, right? Is it clear? These three gunas are you familiar with the three gunas? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The entire universe, of which I am this individual, minus the real Purusha, this body-mind complex, let us keep the soul out. The body-mind complex, it consists of three gunas. One is called Sattva, the other is called Rajas, the third one is called Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The three gunas are there. How does Sattva manifest in an individual? Sattvam lagu prakashakam ishtam upashtam. Sattvam lagu prakashakam. At the individual level, Sattva manifests as lagutva, lightness of the body. If you feel light in the body when you get up in the morning, yes, you are more sattvic. Lagu prakashaka. The mind is clear, right? I am able to understand everything that is presented to me. I am able to absorb that. Then my mind is clear. Prakasha means clarity. Sattvam lagu prakashaka. If I am able to feel that I am light in my body and clear in my mind, that means the sattva is dominant in me. On the other hand, the rajas is dominant with me. Tattvam lagu ishtam upashtambakam chalancha rajaha. At the physical level, there is restlessness, there is enormous amount of excess energy in me, uncontrolled energy in me, rage, anger, agitation, all of them rajas. And at the mental, at the physical level, chanchala, inability to focus attention on one moment, okay. One moment I think about something, next moment leads to another thought, third moment leads to the third thought which is connected to the second thought. Then it loses the fourth thought. Fourth has got a connection with the third thought, but has absolutely nothing to do with the first thought. This is called the train of thoughts, right? That is due to rajas. That's the way most of our minds operate. Most of our minds operate on a rajasic level. Such a what you call distracted mind will not be able to settle down to understand the true nature of the self. Isn't it? Because the mind is constantly running around, there is a time for it to settle down and see, because the Purusha is subtle, very subtle, right? At the intellectual level, if you go through the Yoga Sutra and somebody explains to you, I may be able to get a glimpse of it for a moment, but then next moment I go about, because my mind is rajasic, it goes away. Then if I am tamasic, sattvam, lagu, prakashakam, vishtam, upashtambakam, chalancharaja, guru varnakam etattamah. Gurutva means heaviness. I feel very heavy in the body, and the mind is solid. I went to a yoga lecture called, what is the lecture called? What is yoga? Then I sat there. After 5 minutes, I switched off. I was there for the entire 1.5 hours. I don't know what happened after the first 5 minutes. Yeah, mind switches off. Tamo guna, right? So these are the three gunas, sattvam, lagu, prakasham. And then yoga tries to bring about, make yourself more and more sattvic. That is the first attempt. The first attempt of yoga, Ashtanga yoga, is to reduce your rajas and tamas. Once the rajas and tamas are reduced, then naturally the sattva becomes dominant. How do you reduce your rajas and tamas? By yama niyamas, you are able to reduce the distraction from the outside world. What are the yama niyamas? Satyam, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, shaucha, santosha, tapa, swadhyaya, ishwara. All these things will help me to reduce the distraction from the outside world. I am able to reduce the what you call distraction from the outside world by rajas, whatever, by the yama niyamas. Then what do I do? This particular body also produces, if it is highly rajasic or tamasic, I should be able to reduce the systemic rajas and tamas. This system has got rajas and tamas. How do I reduce it? Asanena rajohanti. That's what the Yoga Sutras say. Asanena rajohanti. What the Hatha Yoga Pujibika. Asanena, by regular practice of asana, you are able to reduce the rajoguna from your system. And then when you go ahead and then do your pranayama, tathakshiyate prakasha avaranam. By regular practice of pranayama, you are able to reduce your tamoguna. Now what happens? There is a systematic approach by which I will be able to reduce the non-helpful chittavartis. What are the non-helpful chittavartis? Tamasic and rajasic chittavartis. Chittavartis which are made up of rajas, chittavartis made up of tamas are slowly brought down by yama niyamas first, then asana, you reduce your what you call systemic rajas, by pranayama reduce your what you call systemic tamas. Once I am able to do that, my mind, my system is more sattvic. A sattvic mind can concentrate. Not an ordinary mind. Only a sattvic mind can concentrate. Only a sattvic mind can meditate. If you sit down and then try to meditate without asana practice, without your yama niyamas, what happens? You sit down for 15 minutes. Your teacher gives you a mantra or whatever. You start with the mantra. After about a minute or so, the mind goes all over the place. Then you try to bring your mind back to it. Again, it runs away. Mind is not able to be brought to control. Then you go home. Again, you don't do any yoga practice. You go to a meditation class. Meditation class, they say, oh, this is Raja Yoga. We don't do asana, we don't do pranayama. You sit down and straight away do your meditation. You sit down, do your meditation. What happens? Again, the mind runs away. You do it for a month. There is no change. Why? You are not prepared yourself, right? How can you write a medical examination without studying your medical books or anything for that matter? Likewise, you have got to prepare yourself. So once that preparation is called Ashtanga Yoga again. Ashtanga Yoga basically helps to reduce your rajas and tamas from the systemic rajas and tamas. Yama niyamas helps you to reduce the influence of rajas and tamas from the outside world. Then you practice your asana and pranayama, and over a period of time rajas and tamas from your system comes down. Then your mind, your whole system becomes more and more sattvic. Once you become more and more sattvic, you can sit down and meditate. What do you meditate upon? I got to train my mind now. I got to train my mind. So I give you take a particular object, you contemplate upon it, they call it dharana, it leads you to dhyana, ultimately it leads to samadhi. Once I am able to develop that samadhi capability, I can use it to various purposes, but the whole goal is to be able to remain focused on the nature of the self. What is the nature of the self? We have just discussed. The nature of the self is non-changing awareness. That is the real nature of the self. So, if my mind is become not mere intellectual understanding is not sufficient, that is sufficient. Okay, I can go and give talks. I can keep on giving talks like this all over my life without understanding the true nature of the self, without experiencing that. But if I want to experience that, I got to follow what Patanjali has to say. What does Patanjali say? Right, practice yama niyama, practice your asanas, practice your pranayama, reduce your systemic rajas and tamas. After you practice your asana and pranayama, sit down and then start your meditation. And then you got to strengthen your sattva by practice of meditation. As you keep on practicing your meditation, your sattva becomes more and more dominant, so you become predominantly a sattvic person. So the first goal of yoga, Ashtanga yoga, will be to make you more and more sattvic. Once I become very sattvic, then I can use my sattvic mind to meditate upon the true nature of the self and then achieve the ultimate goal, Chitta-vritti Nirodha. So this is the Raja Yoga portion of that. Right? And then Ashtanga Yoga is the means of achieving this. Ashtanga Yoga, merely understanding the nature of the self is not sufficient. I got to take a sip of water. Merely understanding the nature of the self is right, good. Intellectual understanding is there. But if I want to experience it, then I got to prepare my system. My mind should be able to remain focused completely, right? All of us have got the capacity to focus on whatever we like. But here, the mind should be able to focus on the nature of the self, which is remote, which requires a complete concentration. That kind of concentration is brought about by Ashtanga Yoga. Does it make sense? Yes. So these are the various things that I must know about what yoga is. So that's it. Any questions you have?
How did your teacher learn this stuff? How did your teacher learn all this?
How did he learn? These are all the books.
Books?
These are all the books.
Did you write any commentaries on the Yoga Sutras?
Many, yeah.
Did Krishnamacharya write any commentaries?
Yeah.
Where do you get them?
Krishnamacharya has written, but now Krishnamacharya is not available.
No, I mean, but his books. Did he write any books on the Yoga Sutras?
He wrote some books, right? He wrote some books, but then he was more teaching rather than writing books.
What was it like to be in the presence of him?
What's it?
Like to meet him. Like when you met him, what was he like? Like as a person?
It is good. Otherwise, that's why I went to him for 3 decades, right? There is something, every class when I go to him, I find something new, very interesting, you would say. So because the main thing is what is to be taught in yoga may not be much, but then because we got a particular way of thinking, it takes a lot more time for us to change. Even though I'll be able to understand what he says, to be able to be convinced about it takes a little more time. Right. Yes.
I would just like to add for everybody who hasn't read this book, everything he's just talked about for the first half hour or the last half hour is in the first 15 pages of this book. So, and this is readily available. It's wonderful to hear you today.
Thank you. See, the one thing that we got to understand in Yoga Sutras is there is a goal. The goal is to understand who really you are. Normally people get what they think, oh yeah, I know who really I am, and what is it you are talking about. That is where we got to settle down and say, okay, this man has something different from my understanding. Let us spend some time to understand what he says, and they will find enormous different approaches there. Instead of seeing that what we experience is the outside world, or he says what we experience can be reduced to Chitta-vritti. That's one of the greatest contribution of the Yoga Sutra. The greatest contribution of Yoga Sutra is all I experience is first reduced to Chitta-vritti. And that Chitta-vritti consists of not only the outside world but also this person. So this combined Chitta-vritti, once I am able to see this, so Chitta-vritti is object. So this person also becomes the object. Object of whom? The real self, which is pure consciousness. This dichotomy between, we divide the entire world as I am the subject, the outside world is the object. That's how we go about our life. Patanjali says, wait a minute, right? Wait a minute. The object is not, is reduced to Chitta-vritti, and that Chitta-vritti consists of not only the outside world, but also this person, whomsoever you consider to be the subject, as part of the total picture. Isn't it? Now you can every time you can consider this person also part of this outside world. And which is the one that is experiencing, that is the real Purusha. What should be its essential nature? Awareness, that's all. And another thing that I understand about this awareness is non-changing. It's constant. Whatever be the chittavriti, whatever be the chittavriti, I had a happy chittavriti yesterday, I have a not so happy chittavriti now, next moment there is another chittavriti. Chittavritis keep on changing. Some are good, some are bad, some are indifferent. But the one that is observing everything does not undergo any change. If this idea sinks and if I am able to be, I can't straight away take it, I think a little more about it, keep on thinking about it. Once my mind is able to be convinced that, okay, this is what they say, then I become interested in yoga. Or whatever Patanjali's yoga. Okay, it's not sufficient to merely understand the intellectual level, I got to be able to directly experience that. And for that, Patanjali does not merely talk about the intellectual understanding. He wants, okay, this is the method. The reason why I am not able to see the real nature of the self, even though I understand it, is because of the what you call multitude of chittavritis. I got to reduce my chittavritis so that a distracted mind cannot see this. So I would like to reduce my distraction. The various umpteen number of chittavritis, outside world, then my own body, my own old thoughts, all of them have to be reduced. And ultimately I reach a stage where my mind gets the capacity to remain in a state of samadhi. So two things are there: the understanding of the nature of the self and the means of means of directly experiencing this. All these things are mentioned or detailed in considerable detail in great let us say detail in the Yoga Sutras. And after these, the first 4 sutras are very important. Everything that you have got to understand in the Yoga Sutras are mentioned in the first sutras. The rest of them are means of achieving this. Right? Yoga Anushasana, Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha, right? Chittavritti, that's what he says. Even here I got to understand. Chittavritti is all what I experience. All I experience is reduced to Chittavritti, and that Chittavritti consists of everything the senses give me and also what my body gives me. I got a total picture. That is what I am seeing now. The Purusha in me is able to see me sitting here and talking. Okay. Right. Any other questions? I'm done.
Sir, could you say a little about what you saw as Krishnamacharya's synthesis between the different approaches to
No,
yoga and
see,
sutras?
here, this is what Patanjali says. According to Bhakti Yogis, the yoga is, the ultimate reality is God, right? And then the individual soul is whomsoever considered to be yourself. And then you would like to merge with that. If that appeals to you, God created this universe, and ultimately I don't want to keep on going from Janma to Janma. I would like to reach the source and be with Him or with that entity. So, and then the Bhakti Yoga is all about that.
Well,
So if I
I
am
was thinking
convinced,
specifically about, for example, Krishnamacharya's identifying.
Krishnamacharya is by and large a Bhakti Yogi, right? But even Bhakti Yogis need a mind which can concentrate on the Lord. That requires a reduction of chittavrittis. So that is why almost even Kundalini Yogis, even Bhakti Yogis, all of them resort to yoga practice. They have restrictions about their interaction with the outside world, yama niyamas. They do asana, they do a lot of pranayama, they sit down and meditate on the Lord. Here in this case, Patanjali, you try to understand the nature of the self, try to use your samadhi capabilities, understand yourself. There they say is understand the ultimate reality and merge with Him. So if that appeals to you, you will follow that. If what Patanjali talks about appeals to you, you will follow this. So there is different systems are there. All of them are true. See, in Yoga Sutras, what they say is, if you understand the true nature of the self, and if you understand that the real self does not undergo any change, it is immortal, there is nothing else I need. So I don't bother about who created this universe and all those things. I am not interested in. If that appeals to me, that's what I will do.
Sir, can you give an example to the gathering here today of like what Krishnamacharya's session, for an example, like what would one look like for you? Because he really brought in so many different components.
Yeah, but then you see what happened was, initially he was teaching me asanas, right? All the vinyasas, hundreds and hundreds of vinyasas, right?
But you were young.
I was young at that time. He went on teaching, and then after some time he said, okay, why don't you learn some chanting? So we went to the chanting. I learned some chanting with my father when I was about 10 years old, so it was helpful. So I went on studying more and more chanting with him. Then he started with this Yoga Sutra study because I spent 30 years. Somebody was asking, somebody was asking me, I said, you studied with Krishnamacharya for 30 years. I said, yes. What will you do every day? Go and do your asanas in front of him. I couldn't explain to him because there is something more than asanas. If you identify yoga only with asanas, that's all what. Then after that chanting, then the Yoga Sutra. Then after Yoga Sutra, you went to teach what you call the Sankhya Karika, because it said that a better understanding the Yoga Sutras will be because Yoga Sutras assumes a lot of things that you find in the Sankhya Karika. Then he went on to teach several of the Upanishads one after the other. Then other yoga texts like Yoga Yagyavalkya, Hatha Yoga Pradipika and all that. So this was going on. And then because chanting takes a long time, in the olden days, we were not allowed to record everything. So I got to go, spend every passage over 25 times with him, then go to the next passage. Like that took a long time. And I was not in a hurry. So Krishnamacharya had something to offer on a regular, continuous basis, right? And the subject has got a lot to offer. Krishnamacharya was able to offer all those things, so it was possible. So, to a great extent, the interest in the subject is created by the teacher, right? The teacher will have to create the interest. See, when I met him, when I first saw him, when he first came to our house to teach my brother, I thought he was another yoga teacher. He will teach yoga, different asanas. But the first day he said, inhale, raise your arms. He is the first person I have seen who said that you must do all the movements with breathing. That's the first time, because other teachers will teach you to do. In school I had a yoga teacher, and then he will say, come on, do your Padmasana, do your headstand and all that. We just go on doing asanas one by one. But he is the first person who has introduced breathing as part of your asana practice. So then I got really impressed by that. Right? And then I went on studying with him. Then afterwards he went through all the even vinyasa, he taught about 700 vinyasa, more than 100 asanas, right? So even as asana practice, it was something unique. I have not seen that anywhere else. He gave a lot of information about asana practice. Then the pranayama, then after pranayama, your meditation, your chanting, all of them, you keep on adding more and more, and all of them enrich your own experience. And many of the things I never knew, he himself would say already, you read this text, you read this text, you read this text. So he used to say what I should read. And another way he used to create interest is when you lie down, when you in between asanas, you lie down, it's in what you call, in Shavasana, he will just he will say something he will quote from one particular Puranas and explain it. So you start understanding there is much more to yoga than practicing asanas. So that interest was created by him. And everything he wanted me to study, he suggested, okay, you must read this, you must read this. So a lot depends upon the teacher. Yes, sir.
I've just noticed, I studied Iyengar for a long time, and then I read your book, and what you're talking about, just from a Hatha Yoga standpoint, the breath, synchronization, and the sequences that are in that book, it's completely different than a lot of what I feel is being taught, and it's very, from a health standpoint, it's very beneficial.
Yeah, actually, if you really...
and I used to wrestle, so I'm used to cardiovascular exercise and stuff, but then when I used to approach my asanas like that, but then I read your book, and it's all about that, bringing the breath down and slowing the pulse down.
See, I'll tell you one thing, the whole idea is, with respect to yoga for health, right? If you want to do yoga for health, the way we practice the other forms of exercises, your cardio exercises or your treadmill exercises, they are where you sweat a lot, you increase your heart rate, what do you call that?
Cardiovascular.
Yeah, there's another term for that.
Weightlifting exercise?
Aerobic.
Aerobic exercise. In aerobic exercises, what you do, increase your heart rate from 70 to 140 or so. But my guru used to say, you should not allow your heart rate to go up. So when you are able to do it with slow breathing, when you do your aerobic exercises, your heart rate goes to 140. Your breath rate normally is 50, goes to even 25, 30 or so. Where you increase the metabolism in the aerobic exercises. Whereas it is not, it's just the opposite in the yogic practice according to my guru. So he will say that our breath rate, instead of being, initially 15 to 30 or so, it will be reduced to 5 or 6. When I inhale, raise my arms slowly, I take about 5 to 6 seconds for my inhalation. So during the time I practice my asanas for about half an hour or 45 minutes or 1 hour or so, my breath rate is brought down to 6 from the normal 15. Right? And in addition to that, when you want to work with the mere skeletal muscle exercise is not sufficient, you have got to work with the various organs inside the body. In the pelvic area there are organs, in the abdominal area there are organs, in the thoracic cavity there are organs, and then there are specific exercises. If you want to work with the pelvic organs like your uterus or bladder or the large intestines, they also require a good exercise. When you exercise well, what happens? Blood circulation improves, Rakta Sanchara, and along with that Rakta Sanchara, we do it with breathing, the Prana Sanchara also increases. I have found that many people who got many of the pelvic problems, we are able to do these pelvic exercises. What are the pelvic? Moola Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, then Kapalabhati or Bhastrika Pranayama, where you actively engage we don't do that in the aerobic exercises. There is a general increase in the skeletal muscular activity, but not these organs. So when you are able to do, and that's why the yogis have been able to find out various methods by which you are able to work with the pelvic area, and also the abdominal area, but also thoracic area. How do you work with the thoracic area? By deep breathing. Breathing helps you. When you expand the chest, what happens? When you expand the chest, the venous return to the blood to the heart increases. So the heart need not pump as many times as it is normally doing by resorting to yogic practices. You spend a little more time. All the yogic exercises. When you want to do yogic exercises like Uddiyana Bandha, Moola Bandha, people merely say, okay, I can do Uddiyana Bandha, I can do Moola Bandha, but why do you do Uddiyana Bandha? Why do you do Moola Bandha? There are important reasons why we do that. Then we will have a better respect for the yogic practices. Similarly, with respect to pranayama, pranayama works not only with the lungs but also with the heart. Enormous amount of help can be given to the heart by pranayama practice, and also followed by Uddiyana Bandha, because the heart, the pericardium is attached to the diaphragm, so you can directly access the heart. Right? If I am able to have a reasonably light, abdomen, then I will be able to do my Kapalabhati or Bhastrika, so that every time I do that, the diaphragm goes into the thoracic cavity, pushes the heart up and down, and then that way I am able to increase the vascularity to the heart. So all the internal organs, in fact I had a student, that 5 minutes. I had a student, she came for my program in 200-hour teacher training program. She had studied with other people, so she had a lot of resistance. She didn't want to do headstand, she didn't want to do shoulder stand, she didn't want to do many of the pranayama practices. Right? Then after some time, and others were doing, she also started. So at the end of the program, after 6 weeks or so, she made an announcement when people asked her. She said that she was about 30 years old at that time. She was 30 years old. She said this was the first time during her lifetime when she did not have dysmenorrhea, the painful periods. Why? Because she was doing the abdominal exercises, the vascularity increases. So you can improve the vascularity to very many. And then I will tell you one thing: if you regularly practice your Kapalabhati, because it is able to stimulate or improve the blood supply to the colons, and then the constipation, the problem of constipation will come down. The peristalsis will increase. These are all very simple, straightforward. Likewise, people don't do studies on that. Most of the studies that are going on for the yoga health program, everything is related to can it help my low back or actually a lot of research can be done for what can be done. In fact, we did a study by which we were able to show that the blood supply to the kidneys can be improved by these abdominal exercises. Yes.
Swami, I know we just have a few minutes left, but can you talk about how in one's personal practice, like I have my own practice that I practice at home and on weekends or at the beach when I can, how much time, I understand your sequencing from asana to meditation to pranayama and then chanting, for example. How much time would you suggest we try to devote to our practice?
I think about an hour and a half per day, if you can find about an hour and a half. If you are a full-time, yoga practitioner, really interested in yoga, 1.5 hours of practice will be necessary. I won't say it is sufficient, it will be necessary. You can practice half an hour of vinyasas, but the main purpose of doing vinyasas so that I'll be able to stretch the skeletal muscles, my joints and all that, and then take another half an hour for certain specific postures which are supposed to be to have their own unique benefits, like your headstand, shoulder stand. One of the important inventions of yogis are the inversions, right? Viparita karnis are important because gravity helps you. It helps you to drain the blood flow, blood more to the heart, then the other fluids and all that. The whole body relaxes because when you are in the upside down position, the legs, the lower extremities need not maintain the tone. They are able to relax. Once they are able to relax, you can do a number of movements for those. See, like that, headstand, shoulder stand, and then thirdly we have the Paschimottanasana is supposed to be very good for the pelvic area, and then you do the and Mahamudra. So spend another, and then headstand, it is not sufficient to merely get to the headstand for 1 minute and come down. You must spend a little time, maybe about 3 months or 6 months, by which you will be able to be very comfortable in headstand, and then stay in headstand for about 5 minutes or so. Then another 5 minutes in shoulder stand, Paschimottanasana, another 5 minutes, Mahamudra. So the next half an hour you do static postures. First half an hour you do many of the movements or the vinyasas. The next 15 half an hour or so you do asanas. Vinyasas first, asanas then. The next 15 minutes you sit down and do your pranayama with the mudras. And then the last 15 minutes you can sit down and do your meditation or chanting or study, whatever you want to do. So that within that 1.5 hours you will be able to take care of the entire system, right? Mere asanas will not be sufficient.
Should you always do pranayama after asanas?
Usually that is what is recommended in the, because that is what the Yoga Sutras say, that is the usual practice. You normally, because by the time you do your asana, the whole body is nicely stretched so that you can sit more comfortably and then do your pranayama. See, if you don't sit down and do your pranayama, your legs are not maybe tight, and then if you sit down with what you call tight lower extremities, the legs will start going to sleep and all that. So initially you exercise your body with asanas and then you sit down and do your pranayama. After you do pranayama, your mind is more and more sattvic. Asanas you have done so that you have removed your rajas. Pranayama you have done so that tamas is removed. The whole system is sattvic. Then you will be able to not only effectively do your meditation and also enjoy your meditation.
Thank you.
It's 4:30.
Yes. We're setting you free. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Ramaswami. Thank you.
Anamali Gadishani Shanki Chakri Charandaki Sriman Narayana Vishnu Vastevo Birakshatu Vignesha Chitu Govinda Madhavanda Keshava Krishna Vishnu Rishi Keshava Vasudeva Namostute Shankha Chakra Gada Vani Srimadvara Kanale Achita Govinda Pundari Kakshar Kshamam Sharanagatam Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govinda